All right, welcome to chapter 14. Michael is leading today, and we'll let him go for it.
Thank you, Dharm. In the middle of chapter 14, there was this paragraph. In the middle of the paragraph that is chapter 14, there's a sentence: in the ultimate, God will have all men to be saved and come to a knowledge of the truth. The question for every man to consider is, what are the best means of reaching the goal in the shortest time and under the most favorable conditions? So that gave me a lot right off the bat to ask questions about. So I want to throw it out to everybody. First of all, that first sentence, how do you feel about this? In the ultimate, God will have all men to be saved and come to a knowledge of the truth. How would our lives look if we really believe that? Or do we really believe that already?
Yeah. Who wants to go? Hand icon or raise your hand.
Michaela?
Hi. I find that I do believe that, like I think, but it feels like it's really hard slog, and how is it going to happen? And I don't necessarily believe yet that God is really in there with everyone and is really working with everyone to get to that goal. But I think I do believe in it.
Nice.
Lisa?
This feeling for me that we're being held through the whole process, which is often a feeling that's opposite of what I actually feel, just because of the terror of my childhood experience where I felt I would be dropped at any point. But more and more, if I can just sort of relax and reach, I do feel God there, and there's this ease. And what's coming to me in the last day is like, oh, our natural state is to be at rest in God's palms, in God's arms. So yeah, it's that feeling that we're being held all along the way, and we can be rebellious as much as we want. We're still in God's arms. We can rebel and kick and scream, but eventually the tides are so strong, love will pull us back into God's, deep into God's heart. I love that.
Thank you. Hi, Virginia. Yes.
Hi. I feel that I do believe this, that God will have all men be saved. It's my faith in myself that I will hear the guidance or recognize the guidance. So then it makes me think I'm going to have a really long road. That's going to be like it's a long, long time away. You know what I mean? It's that part that just makes me kind of, so it's really the faith in myself, because I do believe that God will say, eventually I will be there. I will get there. It's just my recognition and acknowledging when I'm being helped, when I'm being given help, and taking it.
So far we got Michaela is believing, yes, this can be true, but is a very slow slog. It's like this is a very long journey, and is God even here involved with our process? And Lisa's going, you know what? We're in God's palms all along anyway, so who are we kidding? Like, we're already in God's palm. That's right, Lisa, that's kind of the feeling, that you do get this feeling every now and then. And then with Virginia, it's that if only I could recognize the guidance. This journey is long and hard because I am not able to recognize the guidance. And if I could, then maybe it wouldn't be so difficult. Is that a good summary of it so far? Yeah. Okay. And there is some kind of faith.
I want to weigh in too. I believe the statement is true, but I don't really believe it. I don't act like I believe it. There's a gap between what I say I believe in what I actually live. I think I'd rather be rebellious for a while, and you know, if I'm a fish on a hook, I've got a long line and I'm gonna play it out until I'm exhausted.
There's gonna be a special party when Michael gets reeled in.
That's where where the first will be last. You know, I'll be with the last, and it's stupid. I see a lot of stubbornness and rebellion in my mother now that I'm at home, and I accept it as normal. You know, you can do what you want to do, regardless of whether it's for your good or regardless of what other people feel or want to talk to you about or anything like that. Just do it your way. So I think I've been imbibing that all this time. Because I don't know what I haven't stopped to even think of what my life would be different if I believed it, because then I could probably see the contrast between what I have now and what I have then. And then I go, uh-oh, I really don't believe this. So it's a good question for me, and it's why I started out here, you know. And I like your idea of taking kind of like counting heads, Mila.
I'm just comparing. There seem to be a theme here that we all seem to know this is true. So it must be some sweet state experiences we're having, because we just seems to know. We just seem to go, you know what? I know this is true, but where am I at in my own experience and acceptance of it? So I'm hearing this contrast in everyone. And I'm kind of really curious with how that came about. And I like your investigation, Michael, of where am I really at with the belief, and I must not believe it because I don't live it. But then yet we all just seem to know that this is true. It's kind of an interesting dichotomy.
I think there's a piece of it is cooperating with the process, and then another part is being in the process and giving up falsehoods for truth. And I'm still like outside. I'm not cooperating with the process.
I like the word rebellion because it means that we're mad about something and we're not done thundering. It could be as simple as that. Like for me, I would say, well, you weren't there for me then. What the hell do I want you around for me now? Like, thanks for coming through for me now, but what the hell happened then? And as I'm getting more and more memories, unfortunately, of my childhood, it's like, you know, so that's my rebellion. I can name it, I can feel it, I can taste it. Yeah. It's a good thought.
Lisa?
I find that I go through these dichotomies where in moments I feel closer to God, like God's presence is closer to me than ever before. And then it's almost like within the same period of time after I've had that closening of a relationship, I'll plunge into my most deep loneliness and feelings of abandonment. And it's like this dichotomy that's happening hand in hand. And to be able to have that faith to realize, oh, this is just deeper into my darkness. The more I connect with God and strength I build and faith I have in this process, the more I delve and can surrender into this utmost black, bleak aloneness where I felt so unheld. And I guess we get better and better at just recognizing, okay, no, this is just another release. This is what I'm in right now. It's another layer. And when I really want in that moment to reach out, if I remember in that desolate isolation to reach out to God, God always comes. I always feel the connection again. It's just sometimes I don't even remember in those moments to reach out, or spirits are just at me and I'm just in this whole tizzy and I'm feeling like, I am getting nowhere. What am I doing this stupid path for? Whatever, I go through this deep doubt and spirits really attack because I'm not fully humble. So it's just such an interesting juxtaposition of the deepest hells and the highest heaven. And it's a really intense process for me. I wonder if others are having a similar experience. Yeah.
Thank you.
Michaela.
I really resonate with what you just said then, Lisa. And I think, like you, it's like when you're in those shit moments to just remember it's just an emotional experience that you have to go through. And I find that I'll fight it for a long time and I'll resist and I'll distract. And then I'm like, oh, it's just an emotion that I have to feel. And it's so crazy how much suffering we go through to get to that point of like, oh, I just need to feel this emotion. But I also wanted to say what you said, Miller, about you need to find what your rebellion is. That really touched me, and I think that's a great place to start.
Thank you. So what do we believe about that statement then emotionally? We know God will have all men be saved. And what do we actually believe? Maybe if you want to ask your guides real quick, go ahead. What do I believe? Can you help me? Can you help me feel about that? Anyone got some answers, some hints, some ideas, memories?
Michaela.
I got that, like, underneath the terror which I'm avoiding, which is causing me to be in that state of rebellion, I feel that there's nothing there, and that's so it's like, well, my life is going to be nothingness, and there's going to be no connection, there's going to be no action, and it's that avoiding that sense of nothingness that makes me that wants to stay in rebellion, and that I can't see how God's going to reach me in that place. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Others get any kind of response?
Lisa.
I got immediately that I'm a bad girl, and I've already done something wrong. So this is the hurt child, obviously, but that's my belief, is that I've done something to lose God's favor. So even though God has in place these processes to save all of us, I've already kind of lost it. Like, so that's the emotional belief in me that came up right away. I'm not going to get it because I've done something wrong. I'm bad.
And that's the feeling, Lisa, that's the feeling I get from you, that I'm always trying to go, what is she feeling right now? That doesn't, you're saying something, but there's this feelings always there. And I feel like I'm in conflict with what I feel you're saying and what I feel is coming from you. And right now I'm going, that's the feeling.
Is that I'm bad, and yeah.
So, and then there's this anger, obviously you're going to have this anger of God, how could you reject me? It's like this.
Yes, there's an anger with, it's strange. It's like, I'm bad and I deserve it. So there's a self-anger, but there's also an anger at God in the process. There's both.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That was helpful, Mila.
I just want to share. I got the feeling, I didn't know I had this feeling, but I had this feeling of a group of people screaming at me, you will not be saved. No one's going to come save you. So there's this anger coming at me that you will not be saved. You will not be rescued. So something I got to process about that. But in the moment I could feel, I do believe it. I do believe what I'm being told. It's almost like I'm being circled by people saying, we're determined that you will not be saved. We will not let it get to you. It's like, okay. Yeah.
Virginia?
The only thing I got from that, because I want to know what is at the root of my rebellion, was that I don't want to be controlled.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah.
That's Robin's big, Robin speak about it a lot.
I really get my back up about that. I'm like, holy.
Yeah.
Oh, I really, if I even think somebody's trying to control me, I really get my back up about that, because I had such a long time where I didn't have any autonomy. where I didn't feel I could make choices because I just wasn't, it was going to create more problems. So I didn't. And now, wow.
Yeah. No, good one. That's a good one to connect to. Thank you.
Alicia and then Judith.
Yeah, I had it similar to most people, but there's also a feeling of it's not what I'm not worth saving. What and it's almost like you'll survive, but you're not going to thrive. Like you'll just be able to just keep going, but not actually survive and get anywhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a feeling of unworthiness that other people have mentioned to you. And the knowing that, yes, I can feel, as Mila said, that everyone knows this, but I don't. It's like I know it here, but I don't know it. I don't really know it. It's like it's not really in my heart at all. But there is a knowing that I do believe that, but my heart isn't fully in it for sure.
Thank you.
Judith.
Well, I feel like I purposefully sin a lot, like I know better, but I still do things that are wrong. And it's like after this pattern where I kind of feel remorseful and I pray and I want God to help. And then I might get some feedback or I might have something occur that's an attraction. But then I go back to the sinning and it's like, well, how can God, I get to the point then where I go, well, God's never going to come back for me because I keep on running away, and how long will this happen? God eventually will give up. And I do feel that comes from my parents giving up on me when I was little, and I haven't quite developed the faith that God will never give up.
Yeah.
I feel there's going to come a point where God's just going to say, forget it.
Or, well, here's a wild idea, just an idea. Usually if you keep sinning, it's because you're in anger, you're in rebellion. You got to find the anger. It's like, I'm angry. But then are you also testing God and saying, well, show me your God by showing me that you'll never give up on me? My parents gave up on me to show me that you are a worthy parent that will not give. So are you the one testing your parent? Like constantly testing to see, are you going to give up on me now? Are you going to give up on me now? I'm going to keep testing you. Could be that's what's going on. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
And I feel like the statement, God wants all men to be saved, it's like, it's just good PR, good public relations to make God look good, because look, this world is a mess.
Right.
And I mean, I feel like I've wanted to be saved and be a good kid, be a good boy, and it hasn't happened. Nothing has like happened in a flash or whatever I expected. So then I have to make excuses for God and say, well, God has a way that we all have to come and learn from our mistakes and stuff.
Yeah.
And have a quality of honesty and integrity that I generally don't feel and don't recognize. So it just, and so I'm also sin. I saw in Judith's statement, I willfully sin, I think, because I'm angry. I don't see myself really making an effort to stop. I have limits, but I think I could do more for myself.
I think it's counterproductive to try to fight against the rebellion until the anger is processed as an emotion. Because you're constantly fighting yourself and you're going to be exhausted. You may just as well say, it's just an anger, it's just an emotion. I'm just going to go with that experiment and release it by itself. I'm challenging a facade right now, and boy, is there a lot of anger. Like every 3 minutes, I'm just like, I just want to stomp and scream at people. It's pretty mind-boggling. But I'm just experimenting to see if I can own the anger, does things change? Do I change? Does things get better? Experiment and see. I'm just very, very angry. Like, okay, go into it. And the other thought is, Michael, I feel like you're pointing to disappointment I'm feeling disappointed with what I experienced about God's failure to come through for me, or a parent coming through for me. So maybe the emotion to start is disappointment.
Hmm.
At least that is. I like how you could connect to the fact that you're making excuses for God. You're trying to make excuses for some kind of parental figure for failing.
Okay.
Good one. And another thought for future exploration is, if we did believe it emotionally, what would our lives look like? Like, wow, like I can't even try answering that question even intellectually right now, but that's a thought to keep going back to. If I believe this, what would my life look like? So I think that was a good question Michael put out there. Okay.
I think move on, right? So I threw that one in. If God's going to get her way anyway, does it even matter what we think about it now? And for underneath that for me is the sooner I get in line with God's plan, the sooner I will become happy and be able to be more loving and stuff and do some progression. I think I could probably hold out for a long, long time, and that would be stupid. So pointless. So it does matter what I think about it now, because I postpone my own happiness. That's how I would answer the question.
But I don't want to
Anybody?
be. I don't want to be.
Apparently, I'm gonna be angry. Make God pay.
You disappointed me.
Hey, Judith. Yes.
Oh, I just kind of was thinking that like maybe you're feeling like I want to make God happy. And, you know, like when we want to make our parents happy, well, I want to make God happy, and we're not doing that. And we're bad people because we're not making God happy. But that's not the way we should really think about this.
Huh.
Trying to become who we are and healing our emotional pain through God's way, basically, not, my way, which would be, having a cocktail or something, or, so.
Okay, thank
I
you.
don't know if ever,
Thank you.
Anyone else for that one? So does a spirit in the sixth sphere count as saved?
I like the question. Thoughts?
And part of the background of this is Afrar seems, what I get from Afrar is that everybody is going to come into the celestial kingdom at some point. And I think in the True Gospel, they make the point that God's love is a gift and it's voluntary, and nobody is going to be forced to take it. And so it's possible that the sixth sphere could be populated for all time, or there will be these waves of love that come and go over the eons, and people will be on the outside, and then maybe they'll change their mind when it's restored. So I feel like Afrar means that all men will be saved and then have a relationship with God and be in the celestial heavens. But or could that just mean saved from? Are you saved if we're simply saved from sin and we're perfect again? So that's my piece. That's my question about it. What do you guys think? Judith?
I think it's when you're in the celestial heavens is when you're truly saved, because you're back in God's arms again, where I guess we originally started. God created us and let us go, and now we're back in God's arms. I would say in the celestial heavens with God.
Michaela?
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I think even when you're in the sixth sphere, you're still creating, you're still doing the biggest sin against not recognizing God in your life. So I would agree with what you guys are saying about it being in the celestial spheres.
Okay. And that settles it for me. I agree with both of you. Listening to you, and I'm thinking too, because in the sixth sphere, they're sinning against the Holy Spirit, right? Like you were saying, Michaela. And then it's still possible to sin if you're in the sixth sphere in a perfect state, because Adam and Eve did it. A woman and a man did it. That's in the true gospel, in the Paget messages too. So, but once we're transformed and reborn, that's impossible, because God, our nature is different and we can't sin again. So I think that's would be what saved would be. We can't fall again once we're in the celestial heavens, once we're in the eighth sphere. What a concept. Let's go on. The question for every person is, what are the best means of reaching the goal in the shortest time and under the most favorable conditions? Anybody want any strong feelings about that? I had written, if the statement's true, why would we want to hurry it up? Why not take our time? There's no time there. Who cares? Are there benefits? Why does he say, why do we want to choose the best means for reaching the goal as quickly as possible and under the most opportune circumstances? Lisa.
Get happy quicker. Be out of pain quicker, be able to love quicker, have more potentialities open for us in each time we receive more love. My understanding is infinite potentiality arises just from more reception each time the soul grows. So, I mean, wouldn't you want to be happier sooner? That's my feeling. You know, you're in this room and you're like, okay, this is ho-hum. It's kind of, yeah, it works. I got what I need. But then you could be in this other room that's so much better, just by making another stretch of growth and connecting to God and getting some more sin out of you. So that's my feeling.
Michaela?
Yeah, I agree with what Lisa was saying, but I also have found that when I truly am able to feel repentance, which is not very often, but when I am, it's horrible. And, you know, the idea of being able to stop harming other people and then having to pay the cost of having harmed that person, I think I'd like to say it's a strong motivator. It's not, because I'm still doing it, but I think my prayer at the moment is for repentance, because it seems to be a good motivator to stop hurting other people and hurting yourself.
I like that, to motivated to not feel the pain of hurting others or myself. I guess if I'm asking the question, I'm not feeling it. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay.
Michael, sorry.
Go ahead.
So my feeling is that we don't want to pursue the shortest, fastest way possible because of the feeling of what? We don't feel how worthy we are. So we don't go for the best thing possible, because you would only do so if you felt your worth, if you felt how much you were worth. So the feeling of low worth makes us justify why why bother? So what if I'm in pain? So what if it takes me a while? That comes from, well, I'm not worth much anyway. Why fight for this? So I think if we had different feelings of worth, or if we could receive our guide's feelings of our worth or God's feelings of our worth, maybe we would be in a bigger hurry. Yeah, just a feeling.
Wow. Lisa,
Maybe we have fears that we know are just peeking right around the corner that are preventing the next steps of growth, and we're just terrified of what those are going to be like to experience, the fears and terrors, and that are covering the pain inside us. So we're like, I can go slow, and really it's because there's a big fear looming ahead.
Thank you.
and Mila, when you were speaking, what that triggered for me or made me think of is, as a member of humanity, I accept a level of, and may probably think I deserve some level of misery, and I'm used to it. And the idea of it not being a part of my life is not that much of a motivation, because there's always some degree of misery.
Well, when I look at the people that I'm vaccinating, and you see people for just a couple of minutes, but there are times I look at some people and my heart cries, if only you knew what you were worth, would you put up with this? Would you put up with this partner? Would you put up with the way you feel about yourself right now? Would you put up with the job you have and the exhaustion you're in? If only you knew what you were worth. So I will pray for that sometimes. Like, you could see the damage in somebody only because of the words they think they have, which is like pretty, like it's just a mundane random thing. Because when I try to sometimes peek at how their guides are feeling about them, it's like unbearable, because they think that person is the most incredible, beautiful, precious creation of God, and they're treated with such preciousness, and it's like, wow, there's a big contrast. And please don't make me feel that that's how you feel about me. I cannot even feel that. So there's a big contrast. It's really interesting to feel how our guides feel about us or about other people, and then see how they feel about themselves. And the only difference about how you're living your life is because of the worth you've accepted about yourself. You get rid of that, you will not put up with the rejections, you will not accept it, you will not, yeah, I can see it now in my being in the vaccination world, how feeling of worth is the only thing that creates the pain people are in.
Lisa?
Yeah, for me, I feel that I slow down my process also because I have a lot of fears about how I'll be perceived and treated in the world, that I'm going to oppose the world around me more, and therefore I'll be potentially attacked and I won't survive. So I know that there's a lot of ways in which perhaps there's a contrast for perhaps all of us in our sleep state and the work we're doing there versus then our waking mode. And I know I hold back purposely almost. It's almost like that fear then causes me to choose little sins throughout my day that then lead to bigger sins. And then I'm maybe self-attacking and like, okay, you just went for the booze or the coffee or the whatever the sin is, and just, so I feel like not addressing those fears is really for me a key piece. If I get to the point where like Jesus, and I see especially Jesus modeling that, he just goes straight with God and truth and love and gets death threats, and I just think that's a huge factor of slowing down my progress. So
You're not processing the fear, you're not experiencing.
I'm not, right? And I brought this up last time and you mentioned tantrum about it. And I just remembered that here, like to have an anger, like I have a demand, you were saying, Mila, about feeling safe and surviving. And I need to start with the anger about that, which is weird because I'm not feeling anger. I'm just feeling more like frozen. But yeah, starting with, if I can find the anger and the demand in that, maybe that can help reduce the fear a bit. So I'm going to write myself a note.
Thank you. All right, should we
Um,
move?
Yes. I guess does anybody want to answer if I'm not pursuing this condition with all my might, what could I do differently
I like
to
that
be
question.
Oh, okay.
Like kind of, how can we kind of just lean into it a little bit? You know, I'm not doing it 100%, but what can I do now to kind of lean into that direction? Is that what you're asking, Michael, right? Yeah,
I thought I could get some ideas from you guys.
yeah, that's a really good question.
Yes, Michaela.
I find for me with those kind of questions, it's like I could make a huge list of all the things I could do better, you know, and then just feel shit about myself because I'm not doing any of them. But the one thing that I find I am more able to do, and it seems to be a softer approach for me, is to just talk to God more and to bring God into the situation, even if it's only an intellectual process, and to remember that I can ask for help with other people and I can pray for other people, and to just bring that softness into the whole dynamic as much as I can. Because I want to push. My way is to push, and I'm bad and I need to be good, and, you know, and so just to try and be soft in it.
Yes, Virginia. Thank you, Michaela.
I feel myself that I need to keep praying for more humility, because then I will connect with God more and I will let go of what I need to. But
And not judge yourself with you're not.
I'd like that be just instant, but it's not. It's not been instant to grow my humility, because I feel that just blocks a lot of things. Not having enough humility. Yeah.
Thank you. Alicia?
Yeah, I agree with Michaela and Virginia, and the judgment part. And it's almost like the simple thing for me is slow down and remember, and like remember in my heart to pray for humility, to pray with God. So I need to slow down instead of doing one thing and another thing, or having one thought and another thought. I need to just slow down somehow. Does that make sense? It seems really simple, but it's like just slow down and be aware of what you're actually choosing in every moment.
And Alicia, you're God's highest creation.
Yeah.
You are. Like that's tough to like should have tantrums about. Now I have to accept that too, but you are God's highest creation.
Yeah.
You were creating. So.
Yeah. So what you said about worth, I can't remember exactly what you said, but I just wrote down go for gold, but I wrote God for gold, but I sort of, it was like a part and parcel of the same thing. Just like, what are you doing? Slow down, but go for gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Alicia. Yes, Lisa.
I think we get more humility each time we receive more of God's love. It makes us more humble. So that's the quick way. If we just had the courage and alignment of truth in us to go straight to God and keep asking for the love and sincerity, it does very much soften us, and it makes me a lot more sensitive. I mean, hypersensitive. I feel sometimes like I'm just like how I was as a kid, you know, like walking around the world with so many pokes and everything. I feel very fragile sometimes in it, but very alive in the same time. So.
Mila?
For me, talk to God. Talk to God honestly. this is where I'm feeling it right now. It's very mad, it's very sweary, it's very tantrumy. It's yeah. So, but I can feel emotions will start to flow. The moment I start talking to God honestly, within seconds I'm crying. Something's beginning to flow. Something's beginning to move. So, I mean, Jesus says that repeatedly through all of the videos, talk to God. And at one point I took him literally going, I think he literally means talk, just talk. And it's been like kind of like a proof, foolproof to talk to God everywhere you're at. Yeah. I will even say I'm not very humble. I don't even know what it means. I don't care to be for this humility thing, and somebody else most certainly can go do the humble stuff, and that ain't me. Man. I just, you know, that's just where I'm at in my emotions, but things will start to flow. So, but then because humility, from what I'm exploring, is your willingness to feel all your feelings. And a lot of them are not very pleasant. So you got to be willing. If you want to be more humble, then that means you're willing to really feel all of them. And then, but bringing God in really helps. Yeah, for sure.
And I feel justified in some of these sour feelings I have anyway.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
damn it, they're mine.
Absolutely. Michael, we feel like we're getting the real Michael right now. This is really cool. It's like, there he is. You can just, yeah, it's really good.
Let's see if I can turn this new corner.
Which means it's going
I
to
love.
be folks angrier. Watch out. Okay, carry on.
Thank you. Has anybody ever tried to sell the benefits of our spiritual path and give somebody else the idea that we know that they could live their lives in a better way and that we happen to have found it? And how did that turn out for you? Virginia?
Not good. It didn't turn out good. And I'm realizing that it's increased my fear and really living this life sometimes, because I'm afraid of losing my sons, my friends, like the people that are closest to me, because they're just not in it. They think I'm following a cult. And I've made it clear that I don't want to be saved. You know, I don't want people trying to save me from it, and just let me be then. But I don't want to lose those people. It's hard. It's really hard.
So the fear is I will lose relationships. And Lisa earlier pointed out, fear is that I will lose my life. What you said? Yeah. Do you know write down? I wrote it down. That I will lose my life, right, Lisa?
And not be supported. Yes. Like financially, nobody's going to want to hire me if I'm some kook and I'm too different, and yeah, I'll be killed, murdered or something, you know, tortured, murdered. Those are the fears.
5, 6 fears right there. Okay.
Judith?
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I really do have a fear of attack. And when I've tried to talk to people about divine truth, it was a disaster. And part of it I felt was I don't necessarily, I'm not truly practicing divine truth. So it's I'm hypocritical, I guess you could say. So maybe people pick that up, and you get a lot of attack. But I have a lot of fear of attack in general, and it's been interesting because I think about that all the time, and my attractions have been like Mila, meeting people that you see could really use some help. And I think, well, if I had my wits about me and had my act together, what a difference I can make to those people. If I got over my fear of speaking to them and just saying how I feel and counseling them, you know, or just stating something that's the truth. And then dealing with whatever repercussion comes. If they get angry, they get angry. If you lose a friend, you know, you lose a friend. As long as you're not being cruel or punishing, but just truly trying to help. So that's what I've been noticing lately.
Well, I do believe the law of attraction is bringing to you to trigger your fears. If you have fears, you are going to attract law of attraction to get the fear going. So I think that is still helpful because the fears have to be released. Otherwise,
Right.
that's too good.
And even on Facebook, there was an issue just came up, and I finally wrote on someone's page about abortion, and I've been so fearful to say anything about it because of the attack.
Me too. I still haven't said anything publicly.
Yeah.
Terrified.
Alicia?
Yeah, I haven't necessarily, there aren't that many people who I've necessarily told about divine truth as per se, but I've maybe shared some truths with from the teachings. And as Judith said, I feel like it's actually held me back because I've held myself back, rather. I've held myself back because I'm afraid that I'm not actually good enough to be sharing anything, because who am I? And, you know, I'm not like super blissful at the same time. So, and I've definitely had a lot of rejections, even in not necessarily saying about Jesus and divine truth, but sharing some of the truths that I've learned and some of the things that I have integrated. And as you said, Mila, of course, it's bringing up those deep original childhood wounds of rejection and not being loved, etc., and not being understood, etc. So yeah, I can see the benefits, and it feels less painful to me to have someone. I had someone recently said, I just don't want to talk to you anymore. That's it. But it didn't touch me as much. It was like, okay, that's where they're at, and that's fine.
Oh, nice.
So, but you know, another time it might not be. But I noticed that I'm not so worried about that in some situations. Anyway.
So our addiction for acceptance is pretty strong. Because if we look at it, it's an addiction for acceptance.
Yeah.
Could be that, yes, we're avoiding attack, we're avoiding rejection, but at the same time I'm going, but it's also, I want acceptance. Because when I get that, a little bit of that, and through my new work right now, boy, it feels good. And then I go to another clinic and I get massive rejections and bullying, and it's like, oh, and then there's the other experience. But the contrast really helped me feel the two ends of
Yeah.
bullying and the addiction. But God, I love acceptance. It's so nice to get a little bit of it.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Michael, too.
Yeah, I've been disappointed. I think I've stopped trying, and you know, it's the good news. We one of the first Bible lessons we learn is, you know, you want to share the good news with everybody. And well, I feel like we've got the good news, you know, the better than good news, and it gets a worse reception. And I'd love to have some reinforcement and some feeling that some corroboration from other people that they find it to be something that I've said found to be true. You know, that'll give me some validation and confidence. So it's now I recognize people, seems like that we all have to learn our own lessons, and maybe opportunities will come up, but then you plant a seed, and then boy, it takes a long time for that seed to germinate.
But imagine if the seed wasn't even there. Imagine a seed planted, and while you work through the first year, that seed started sprouting and literally pulled you out. I don't discount the power of seeds. Throw them around like weeds. You never know what it does. 300 years from now, you start to, you know, realize how much that seed mattered. I believe in the power of seeds. It's like you planted a seed, man, you good. Imagine that wasn't there. And Michael, you mentioned the word disappointment again. So That's your emotion.
Yeah, I'm feeling that. But I do, honestly, I do believe in planting seeds.
Awful.
Publishing things and putting it out there, dropping comments on the Facebook page. I've been attacked. I stood out against abortion. I said it's murder, and two of my close lady friends who are feminists, they wailed into me. But we just got to plant seeds. Let's see. Lisa, were you up next?
I think so. Oh gosh, can't remember what I was gonna say. Oh, speaking of planting seeds. So in the beginning, I told my whole family and all my friends about Divine Truth. I was like, woo, this is amazing. Jesus and Mary are back on earth. And I got just blasted by my family, especially the people that were closest to me were very threatened and worried about me being in a cult. But now, interestingly enough, after a huge amount of attack, especially from my uncle and my mom, I have not heard a word about it from them, as they're noticing me maybe softening towards them and demonstrating maybe slightly kinder behaviors. And my aunt is, when she's really in the throes of some kind of inner turmoil, because she's doing this process in her own way, she'll say, what is it that AJ would say about that? What would AJ say? What would he say about how did he handle? And so she's coming to me asking for it. So I find it really interesting that people have come back around, some of them. So it's exciting. Yeah.
I've decided to stick with just planting the one seed. It's about the emotions. You got to let it move. Like clinically, like at the clinic, the questionnaire is about just one concept. It's about the emotion. Doesn't matter what you're working through, there's an emotion and you got to feel it to release it. I'm just sticking with that idea, just putting it out there. Even in the vaccination, there are opportunities where you kind of go, you got to, if you could just let that come true, it's the emotion you got to feel. Just that seed, I just see what happened. And then when people ask for more, then I can go further. I find like that kind of respects their boundaries, but the seed that's being planted at this point, from my perspective, is you got to release the emotion. It's about the emotions after all. Those are my seeds.
Alicia.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Mila. Feel to heal. Just what you said before, I think it was Michael, it reminded me of a couple of things in, I can't remember which books, whether it's this one or Life Elysian, but there's one of Afra talking about how you can turn something on a diamond point, like it could go in one way or the other way. And also there's another part that says about when you stand with God, you're standing with the majority, even if it's just you. And those are a couple of things that I often remind myself of.
Wow.
If I'm just speak to a stranger in the street who's hobbling, So yeah.
Wow, good one. Those are solid faith. I can feel like you really, that's a real strong faith for you, Alicia. Like you, wow.
Yeah.
Whew. I felt that. Those are not just words for you. That's good.
Thanks.
It's like a ripple. Felt a ripple.
Yeah.
Next question. The great shepherd who declared himself to be the way condensed the rules into a simple, unequivocal sentence. Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. So, do you guys, he was saying this is what you need to be saved, I think. So do we agree with this? I don't agree with this.
Wow.
Well, it's not divine truth, so I'm very rigid, I guess. How about some of my comments, Alicia?
Oh, mute.
It feels like the golden rule, as it's called often, is like do unto others as you want to be done unto yourself. But I don't necessarily know what's loving enough or truthful enough. So I may do to someone else what I would like, but I may not be doing the divine truth way because I don't know enough yet. So I don't agree with it.
We could be the blind leading the blind.
Yeah.
I would like people to meet my addiction, so I think that's loving. So then,
Yeah.
okay.
Michaela,
How come you say it's not divine truth? Sorry, I thought you were talking to me.
it doesn't talk about God, about yearning for God and trying to find God's way. It seems like it's not reaching up, it's keeping things on the same level that I'm on.
Okay, right. Because yeah, I just saw it as like the do unto others as you do to yourself. And so I just sort of thought that was aligned with divine truth.
And also that these are kind of like parables, like Jesus had to leave behind very simple parables that, you know, will stick to mind through the ages, and he has. 2,000 years later, we're still speaking of that. I'm just wondering if that was like, you know, when you're talking to humanity whose consciousness is like a 4-year-old, then you got to leave imagery that will stick with you. So he was simplifying it, maybe?
Alicia?
Yeah, isn't it to do with ethics? So it could be that I can be on the natural love path and still abiding by this, and I'm not including God, but I'm being ethical. Does that make sense? But yeah, you're right. For me, yes, it doesn't include God, but it's a part of the process, it feels to me at the same time.
Judith?
Yeah, I think it's just a basic, regardless of whether or not you have a belief in God, if you treat someone the way you want to be treated, you're evolving in a natural love. But I kind of look at that law as like, I always forget. I look at it how a person treats me. I don't always, I'm mindful about how I treat others, you know, and it takes some conscious effort to, like, especially when you get angry in the grocery store or something, you know, or on the road, you forget that when you cut somebody off because you're pissed off or something. But yeah, I just think it's just a, you know, and Jesus has that PDF, you know, developing and burning desire for God. And I think what he says in it is like, developing your natural love is a step toward developing love towards God. Just get.
Okay. I see that. Right, because you do have to develop your own, like that. There's the other statement that Michael has picked out. That
Yeah.
you're developing your character, which then end up becoming the clothing you wear.
You can accept more, you can start to accept divine love if you're a more loving person.
I like that. I like the ideas that way you're actually developing your own nature and choice to love, so that you are being developed as human beings. I like that. Thank you. Yeah, I can see that.
Lisa?
And it says here, you know, after the quote, therefore all things whatsoever you would that men should do to you, do ye so even so to them. For this is the law. It says, a life so lived is anointed by the Holy Spirit, the Christ life, and cannot come near death. So it's implying that even if you may not know God or involve God directly, your life is being anointed and blessed by the Holy Spirit, in that you're in alignment with love of your brothers, which is huge. And it says, but you have to you consistently live that way through your life. So I think there's many people that live and die who live very ethical lives, who are beautiful, much more loving human beings than many people who maybe think they know God and try to involve God. So I find that very interesting. It says it's anointed. That life is a life so lived is anointed by the Holy Spirit. So,
provided that we can differentiate between addictive love and real love. I would like people to not hurt my feelings, and therefore not tell me truth, because I'll hurt my feelings.
right?
When I do that to others, and turns out I'm enabling addictions. Like, that's an addiction. Don't hurt my feelings. Don't expose me. Oh, that's addictive. That's not love.
You know, in many ways, Afar was one of those people. He wasn't all holy and connecting with God all the time. He lived a very loving, service-oriented life.
Mhm.
And his life was anointed by the Holy Spirit. And in the way I see it, he was blessed. And as soon as he passed, he then learned of what he had hoped for. He had doubts about God, but he learned that it was true, that God was love and was holding him through the whole process.
Good point. And at least you developed, because he developed natural love, but then that developed his soul and created a nice fertile ground for the other stuff. Oh, I like that. See, Michael, confrontational questions are amazing. It brings on a good conversation. Anybody went for your turn. What do you mean it's not divine truth? I love it. Okay.
Alicia?
Oh, and you remember in Through the Mist, there was the guy who had this wonderful reception when he passed, and he felt like he'd done nothing. But he'd given his glasses or his shoes or something, and he probably wasn't really thinking about God. He was just treating others how he wanted to be treated. Yeah.
That's right. There's the image of what you do unto someone, anybody, you do unto me, Jesus is saying. So there's, okay, Michaela.
I just had a thought with what you were saying, that if we choose to practice love, more love on the planet with with other people, when we're in the mist, sitting on the hillside, we'd be more open to conversing about love and understanding that there's different ways to move forwards and stuff like that. I think. Just a thought.
In an earlier chapter, Afrar had, there was he refers to Luke, and the question was, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? And I was beginning to embrace this statement, even though I like the what he told Nicodemus, you must be born again. To me, that's the new information that Jesus brought with his new knowledge of God and the rebestowal of this divine love that could change us. And I think of things that refer to the law and the prophets as Old Testament. That was the law before, that was the way to purify the natural love before Jesus came with the news about the divine love. And that's not just me saying it, it's from the Paget messages. So, but kind of in between there's that question, what do I do to inherit eternal life? And Afrar said, someone will be wanting to ask me what I mean by redemption through Jesus Christ. I cannot do better or be more brief in my reply than considering the Master's answer to one who asked him the same question. Thou shalt love God and thy neighbor as thyself. Do this and thou shalt live. For love is the fulfilling, is the satisfaction of the law if it is observed in practice. To believe it only will not avail. So I like that he draws love into this, and it has to be observed in practice.
So why can't we have, I don't think that the truth statement is saying it's one or the other. Like we could have top 10 quotes or parables that are like all good for whatever occasion you have, right? Like I feel like, are you kind of comparing, going, well, I don't like that first statement was used, I'd rather use this one? Is that what you're saying? Michael?
I think the statement that refers to the law and the prophets, just because it's in the Bible, it has weight. It won't produce the same results that the others will,
Right.
because people don't have the discernment that there's a new love that involves loving God and not just treating somebody according to the law or according to the way you want to be treated.
But I like what we have come up with so far, which is, well, you got to kind of develop the natural love bit, and then you create the room for God to be involved, for you to love God. Like that seems to be like then the next step. Maybe you got to first develop a few steps ahead, like, you know, treating each other the way you want to be treated, develop your own sense of love, and then you can go step ahead, a step above to involve loving God and receiving love from God. Maybe it's a one and then a two process.
Lisa, then Alicia.
I actually think that God has given us the loving gift of choosing whether we even want to relate to him or not, and that we can be incredibly happy without involving God, and that would be considered us being saved. I really feel that all men, all people will be saved in whatever way they choose. And I've heard Jesus refer to this, that probably many souls will not choose to involve God in the process, but they'll still be saved. I feel saved as coming to a place of perfection with whatever choice you've made as a soul. Are you going to have God as part of the process, which means you'll be incredibly happy, or are you going to just be in a natural love state of immense happiness and joy? So that's my feeling about it. I know that disagrees with what everybody else has said about being saved, but that's my feeling.
So basically, Lisa, you're saying people in the sixth sphere can be considered saved.
It's a discussion group, and that's good. Alicia.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to ponder on what Lisa said. Oh gosh, having a blank now. But the steps that Mila mentioned, it feels like those steps are important in that, yes, loving one another, loving God. I can see the steps, but I can also see that intermingling. For example, as you said earlier about if I really feel how God feels about me, then I will love myself more, and then I will feel God's love for me more, and then I will naturally love others more. So it doesn't feel necessarily that the steps are in certain order at all. They're like intermingled.
I've had experiences where when I ask how God or their guides feel about certain people, and when I feel their feelings about that person, then I also felt more love for that person. So I could feel like, wow, is this what you feel about this person? You really love them. You really feel how precious they are. And it kind of, I don't know, it's like a sympathetic, like it kind of opens up my own feeling or desire or ability to also want to love them the same way. So yeah, I mean, we're just guessing here, but you can kind of tie into each other. It does then awaken my own natural love to want to love another person.
Alicia, when you were talking about feeling how God feels about us, when you were talking, I let the door open a crack just a little bit to let a little of that feeling come in, and then I shut it quick. But I felt it. It felt good. And I also realized, you know, if I'm not willing to let God's feelings come in for me, if I don't like those feelings, I'm not going to accept God's love either.
Oh yeah, that's where I've been at that place in different levels for a while now. And I remember once asking my guides about someone who I was in conflict with and having a challenge with, and I just got this message: just love them with all your heart. And something immediately softened in me towards them. And although there was still something to work through, it just, I could feel that they were God's child, and that was the most important thing to keep remembering.
It'll take me weeks and weeks of festering when I can get there. Someday it'll be 5 minutes quick. I'm feeling grief right now going, I'm not able to do those things right now. I'm not there yet. It takes me a long time to work through the anger before I can have even a little bit of ability to do so. I'm glad you can.
How are we, timekeeper?
Kind of have to wrap it up. So
How do we wrap this up?
where were we at in the pages? Wow, yeah, we didn't get far, did we? I mean, we went deep. I like where we went. So I like the next statement, Michael, about what habits of life, what future are you creating for yourself? Will we act differently if we were fully aware that our choices are dressing us for our next life? So let's wrap with that. What would you guys like to? What habits do you think you have or could be having that will literally be your clothing going forward? Alicia?
I honestly feel like this is going to be my play work, but I remember when I read this question, I suddenly saw the colors that I've chosen for the last probably 20 years, and they're majority turquoise and crimson. And I felt like those colors are what I need to be doing for myself. And so I need to, without going into what I feel those colors mean, but so anyway, but I feel that what Michael's asking, fantastic, and I'm going to put that as my play work. So thank you.
I feel for myself, it's the question I keep asking about guides, anyone's guides. How do you feel about this person? God, how do you feel about this person? How do you feel about this issue? I feel like that's a question that is developing my character in a certain way. And it really helps me to, like, it's become a predominant part of my nature. At this point, I don't know how it's going to change me, but it's like that's, I live by that. It's really helping me a lot.
Thank you. Lisa?
And Mila, I wonder if that's going to help you build your faith in God's healings for you and you develop your closeness with God, because you're asking God and you're like, oh my gosh, God's given me this, has so much love and joy and delight in each of these creations. I wonder if maybe I have that with God.
Yeah, thank you. And what habits would you like to work on, Lisa, or are working on?
I feel a lot of shame because I have this addiction to a word game that I do. And I've had visions of, if I go to the spirit world, if I were to die now, I would have walls of my house covered with all my life focused on this stupid word game. Just embarrassment and the shame of it, and what fears drove me to do this that I'm not yet wanting to look at and drop it, so that's something I know came to me immediately. I feel a lot of shame about it.
Others? I mean, Lisa didn't give us a positive habit, but that's okay.
Oh, well, I think I do have positive an intention each day to really take time to deeply feel and connect to God.
Ooh,
which
nice.
is huge.
Yeah.
I heard Jesus just saying recently in one of the assistance groups, when we're deconstructing the facade, we once we get through that avoidance of our terror and the pain underneath it, our life shifts in such rapid ways. And I'm like, oh, what have I been experiencing recently? Terror. This is good. I'm on the right track. I just have a lot of, I have more fear and shame in a group of people. I have a lot of fear of being attacked and judged by you all, even though you're a very loving group. So I think there's some walls you're probably feeling, and you're not feeling who I am on my own with myself, or say one-on-one with a person I really feel trust in, like Robin or something like that. So I just thought to throw that out.
But it looks like you're working on developing your faith. That's really good.
Very much so, very much so. And that is the most important thing I could be doing. Like today I've been conked out most of the day. Like it was that much terror that I took this nap and I woke up feeling like The Walking Dead, it was that deep of a sleep that I had. And just all this grief is starting to come. So it's an intense process we go through. All of the stuff we've stored, it takes a lot of courage to do this.
Thank you. Did Michaela raise her hand? No, but Alicia, go ahead.
I think on a habit that I have that I've been neglecting a little bit recently is when I wake up in the morning, I drink lots of water, then I go back to bed and I'm just like, that's my God time and guides time. And often I write then and remember as much as I'm able to feel what I woke up with and go into that, I got that really strongly today, that I need to actually spend more time in that place when I first wake up, because I'm not really actioning what I'm feeling in those times, or what I'm getting messages about. I'm not really actioning it during the day.
Thank you. Virginia, come on, give me something. A good habit.
A good habit?
A habit that you are working on, developing, something that's actually good, you're just not giving yourself credit for it.
I'm really making an effort to develop humility. I feel like that will help me a lot. And I know it's happening because the law of attraction is showing me where I don't have it, because I feel like, oh, I've worked through some of this, like I think I'm getting there. And then it shows me something else. It's like, yeah, what about this? And so now I'm starting to like the law of attraction more. I'm not not like it's punishment for me every time something happens, and then start judging myself immediately on that. So because most of the time I feel like I have so many sins and continuously sinning, then when I think of like, geez, what will I look like when I move into the spirit world? Yeah. I'd like to know, but then I must not really want to know because I've not seen it. So I must not really want to see it.
Well, you got to stop judging. Can't see it until you stop judging, because you're going to attack yourself. Like,
yeah, the self-judgment. So I keep hoping that, okay, I just keep being drawn to the humility part of it. So I feel like that piece for me is going to open up other things, and then I'll see what goes on from there. I get scattered if I think of too many things that I have to do. Like there's like a list, and there's so many areas that I could be working on. So I just like, let's just work on one at a time. And
well, it's got to be a guide.
Is better for me. And I can see that different areas where it is working, it is getting better. So that gives me some hope. Yeah.
Thank you. Judith?
Yeah, I've actually been working lately on my codependency and how I feel like I'm kind of obsessed with what people think about me, and trying to really notice that, and then notice, well, if I'm worried about what they think of me, what do I want from them in return? I obviously want approval from them, and I'm kind of realizing how insidious that problem is. And then also that also really boils down to worth, which is a big problem, as well as wanting to forgive myself for all my.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to forgive yourself when you self-punish, because how do I become humble to emotions while forgiving myself?
If you still have the addiction of punishment, because you got to see, I see it as an addiction. Punishment is an addiction, so that helps you to disengage it.
Okay.
Disengaging an addiction. Huge.
Yeah, but that's what I've been working on lately.
Thank you. Michael, sorry.
It seems like my habits are, this was the genesis of the background of this for me. I fill my time with things that don't prosper me spiritually. They make other people happy. They keep things organized. The cats are all happy and fed, and the garden gets watered, but there's a lot. I'm missing the important things, and so I feel like I'll pass over and I'll be sitting in a pile of straw, essentially straw and dried leaves, because that's what my life has been. And so if I were to do it differently, I would want to be childlike, and I'd like to be fully involved in this life, the idea that God loves me, wants to save me, and wants me to discover truth and who I am and all these wonderful things. And just, I wouldn't care, what the outcome will be. I would be happy to be a child, living without doubt and second thoughts, and just fully involved, and just go wherever it goes.
That would be really cool, Michael. I would come visit you and go, let's go on an adventure, Michael. Every hour will be unpredictable. I don't know what will happen next, but it's going to be childlike.
It'd be so fun.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for sharing yourself. It's beautiful. All right, folks. This was wonderful.